Greetings, podsters and podlars, and welcome to Cazza and Tracy Talk Gavin and Stacey. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Cazza, or Caroline.
And we're friends who, like Gavin and Stacey, met online in the noughties. We connected over small humour, over how life is funny in the minutiae of things, and we also found that we like to read and watch many of the same things. And one of those things was Gavin and Stacey, which is also a show that celebrates small humour as well as kindness and bluster and people being magnificently themselves in all their flawed glory. And now that the show is having its one last hurrah with a final Christmas special, we thought we'd rewatch it all, remind ourselves why we loved it and find out whether we still do. So we've arrived at episode 7, and while there is still the Christmas special to come, this is the last episode of the season. So we begin all excited for the arrival of Nessa's baby and keen to know just how Gavin and Stacey are going to reconcile their love across the distance. So let's start with Tracy's Pracy, a quick recap of the episode. Gavin and Stacey are, of course, on the phone, and we learn that while Stacey is still in Barry, Gavin has been to see her, and she says for their next visit, she'll come to him. She catches the train and Gavin goes to meet her. At home, Pam's in a flap trying to make everything perfect for Stacey's return. It's clear there's still some expectation that Stacey will be moving to Essex. When Stacey arrives at the Shipman, Stacey, Gavin, Pam and Mick are all having a drink together when Stacey finds out that Pam and Mick are going to give Gavin and Stacey money for the deposit on a house. Talking to Gavin in private, Stacey is not only shocked by this but thinks it's overstepping the mark. She's just taking off her wedding ring when Pam rushes in to tell them Nessa's gone into labour. We'll cut to Wales where Bryn is helping Nessa through the labour. Back in Essex, no one can find Smithy, so the Shipmans decide that Pam and Mick will take Stacey down to Wales while Gavin goes looking for Smithy. It's time for Nessa to go to the hospital. Gavin and Smithy's sister, Rudy, finally finds Smithy and Gav gets him to Wales, complete with the inevitable farce at the toll stop and a loquacious police officer. At the hospital, Nessa asks Stacey to stay for the birth while everyone else is shooed out to the waiting room. The baby is born and Smithy arrives a few moments later. It looks like there's going to be an argument about the baby's name, but they can settle on Neil because that is both Smithy's name and Nessa's dad's name. Out in the corridor, Gavin and Stacey are locked in a loving embrace. So it reaches a satisfying conclusion. What did this episode, what was it about for you, Caroline?
I've written, it starts out like it might be an ending, but it's actually a beginning. So,
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole premise of the show, Gavin and Stacey, looks like it's in a lot of trouble. But then this beginning of the Nessa and Smithy connect, and that, as I suppose a joyful occasion does, helps people to come together again. I guess that's what I thought. What about you?
I think it's exactly what you want from the last episode of a season.
Yes.
You know, the main stories come to a satisfying conclusion, but if you're a fan, you know there's still room for the stories to develop because, like you say, in some ways it's just the beginning. And also, I think we're all looking forward to seeing Nessa's parenting style. So, yeah, I thought it was a really well-pitched final episode. How about, we've been talking about how things stand up across time. How's this one standing up for you? Did you enjoy it? Anything cringy or problematic?
Okay, so this... this just really speaks to who I am now and my age, and that's just that I can't anymore bear watching and hearing people kiss passionately on television. Like, I just sit there going, yeah, and I don't think I used to mind that, but just when I see the mouths, it's almost like watching someone chew for me. So, but that genuinely is a personal thing, and it was my only issue with this episode. I think everything else, this is another cracking episode, I reckon.
Yeah, me too.
Really, really good.
Yeah, I've never been able to watch people kiss.
Well, now I wonder if because I do remember that terrible teenage feeling, especially if your folks are in the room. But I think I don't need to see their tongues going in. Anyway.
I always felt it, never lost the feeling. Yeah. No, I agree. I just think it was the perfect way to end the series. So, yes.
Yeah.
What about much for you in the way of character development?
There were quite a few things I love. And one of the things that really stood out for me is that Bryn was an unexpectedly great birthing partner.
I agree.
I mean, to the point where he was testing the, what do you call it, the dilation, and was able to say 4 to 5 centimetres, which maybe is overstepping, but just contractions, calm. He was fantastic. I loved that Ness wanted Stacey with her out of all the people in the room, just that friendship thing. And there's a moment, I think, also where Smith tells Gavin that he loves him when Gavin is so sad about the breakup. So that was nice. Beautiful when Pam said, "It's all the drama, Mick. I just love it." And I thought, that's true, Pam, for you. Yeah, and also Mick being able to just that. There's a whole opening scene where Stacey's back and Pam is so nervous that she just keeps saying the most redonkulous things. If you'd like to come back to our humble home, and Mick and Gav are just going, "Tea, Mum. Make the tea, Pam." And I thought that was really sweet as well.
I thought, as far as characters developing or their arcs, this was all the results of their characters rather than seeing them change. So, we kind of see Gavin and Stacey are clearly back together, but they haven't sort of shown us how they're going to do that yet. But everybody else is sort of fully realised in this episode, I reckon. It's a baby episode, so it's bound to be heartwarming. But what was your favourite heart moment?
There's two. Obviously, births, I'm always going to have all the feels at a birth. And I think that this hit this all without being too schmaltzy as well. It felt very honest. But I think also just the stress and sadness that Gav and Stacey were going through. Gav's genuine distress when Stacey went to take the ring off. Stacey having that little quiet, sad moment in the foyer. And also every time they talked about it with anyone else, everyone said, "You shouldn't give it up. You've got a good thing. He's a good man. She's a good partner," So it was almost like everyone else could see how right they were for each other. So those are the things that really spoke to my heart, I guess, when I was watching it. How about you?
Well, like you already mentioned, I loved seeing Bryn looking after Nessa in the early stages of labour. Their friendship is one of the real kind of understated pleasures of this show for me.
Yes.
It's so respectful and accepting and
a lot of knowledge in it as well. Like they know each other really well. So, yeah.
And I feel like Nessa actually treats Bryn the way she would probably treat Gwen. Like she's much nicer to Bryn than she is to anyone else. So, yeah, I really...
She's terrible to Gwen, yeah.
Yeah. She's awful.
Oh, Gwen.
Yeah. So that was probably my favourite moment. But like you say, I do really like the undertones of just love and support that everybody's got for Gavin and Stacey, and just their, this is hard for them, but they don't doubt their love for each other at all, and they don't sort of doubt the other person's doing their best for them.
That's really true. It's their only problem is logistics.
Yeah. What about your favourite joke or line?
Okay, I had a few, but my absolute laugh out loud, and it happens every time I see it because I forget about it, is this splendid pratfall when they're running to the birth and they're running late and they hit a slippery when wet corridor and they both go up. It's just like, I'm not actually a huge slapstick fan, but that is just so good. And so, the drama's at its absolute tension there. Is he going to get there? Is he going to get there? And then both their legs go up in the air and then they just get up and keep running. And that was the one. But I have got some other favourite moments. Do you want to say any of yours? Or no?
Well, this episode actually has my very favourite line, which you've already said, and that is when they found out Nessa's in labour and they're racing Stacey to Wales and Gavin's rushed off to find Smithy and Mick says, "What are you smiling at?" And Pam says, "It's all the drama, Mick. I just love it." And so for me, this is actually probably the core of the whole series. It is just that absolute joy that she takes and yet does feed off the drama of it. She takes so much joy in her love for her son, but the drama of life around her just gives her life. That line will never fail to satisfy me.
Yes, same. Yeah. I love that line too. So I really enjoyed Smithy's sister Rudy having that massive slanging match with the girl whose boyfriend she'd snogged on the fire escape. she's very funny, that actress. She's really good. And also she just does a completely unnecessary roll across the top of the car when Gavin says get in, and she jumps out the Macca's window and rolls over the car and gets in and just sits there and goes, I've always wanted to do that.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
So she's a lot of fun. And the other thing that a couple of smaller jokes is that when they're searching for Smithy, Gavin gets a call from Gary and Simon, and it turns out that it's almost like they're the one person, like they're both on the phone telling you, they just, you never get one without the other. They're always together. So it was just, he picks up the phone, and I think almost the phone number might even say something like Gary and Simon or something. And then also when Nessa's in labour and she gets asked something mid-contraction, so she goes to say tidy, but she goes tidy, and it just made me laugh so much. They were my favourite jokes.
That's kind of the wrap-up of the episode, but I reckon it's a good time to reflect on our rewatch and how it's going for you, and are you loving it as much as you did when you watched it the first time round?
So we're talking whole series?
I reckon, or just, I reckon the whole series.
Because there are some episodes, like I think that one and one earlier in this season, which were just perfect episodes for me. I had, no notes except for praise.
Yeah.
And nothing that I found problematic. I've watched other ones that I thought I loved. Like we'll talk next time about Christmas Special, and I thought that I wholeheartedly loved that, and I went, oh, maybe I was just in a bad mood when I watched it, but I didn't love it as much as I remembered loving it. So,
spoiler alert, but
yeah, I still love this series. It's still fantastic. I still love all the characters. They're fantastic. I love the writing. I love the writing of the female characters. I think that's really strong. And that they're allowed to be dicks, and they're allowed to be selfish, and they don't have to get redeemed. They just are who they are. And sometimes they're great and sometimes they're awful. And what about you?
I really am loving it. I thought this series 2 is much stronger than series 1. If we just stopped at series 1, I might be a little bit, it's nice. But series 2 is so strong. I guess it's lost a surprise, so I don't have as many big laugh out loud moments, which is to be expected.
Yes.
But I'm also loving seeing all the layers that I either didn't notice the first time round or I'd forgotten. And so like I was saying, I think when we were talking about Doris and her lover, something I've really appreciated from this rewatch is the balance they strike between pure entertainment but never dumbing it down. You still have to go to the joke quite often. They don't just there's no lingering moments on different characters or, any dead and kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that much more about it than I did the first time. I mean, maybe I noticed it the first time, but I guess when you rewatch something, you are sort of there for the layers and the subtleties, aren't you? So
agreed, yeah. And because, I'm taking notes, I am probably getting a little bit more of the dig down into it rather than just vegging in front of the couch.
Yeah.
All my favourite shows on. Yeah, no, I absolutely still love it. I think it's, it was probably a bit of a breakthrough, I think, almost in sitcoms and the way that they could go forward. It was so great. Such good writing, such good performances. They're all so good.
Yeah.
So true to their characters. And I think that'd be the sort of thing that if you met them in the street. Oh, my sister was telling me a story about how they got Alison Steadman and Larry, what's his name, to do a travel show together. So they went travelling together and it was like some kind of, travel feature show. And it kind of tanked because they didn't have that much chemistry in real life. I think he is sort of an East End boy thing and she's probably a bit more of a theatre lass. It just spoke to me that people really wanted them to be Pam and Mick. What they wanted was Pam and Mick to go on a travel log and then you could see Greece through their eyes and that would be magnificent. And that having just the actors do it was just not nearly as satisfying.
Makes sense to me. I'm kind of surprised they did that, like knowing, but I guess you'd give any. Yeah, no, I would have given it a try.
Yeah, because you see Pam and Mick on telly and you go, we've got to bottle that. That is so good, the Pam and Mick dynamic.
Yeah.
But it's created in a special world with fantastic writing and directing and all that sort of thing. And it only exists in that bubble.
And everyone else around them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to be back next time with our rewatch of the Christmas special, and we might, based on what you have said, not agree on everything. So
okay. Look, I still love it.
No,
I think I was in a bad mood. Have you got a quiz question for me?
Oh, I forgot about our question. I do have a question, and I just remembered it 1 second ago. And then have you got your question for me? I remember what my question is. It is, how much is the toll between England and Wales at the toll gate?
I think it's £5.10.
Oh, it is. Yes,
because they didn't have the 10p.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so my question for you is, can you remember the names of the boy that Rudy kissed and the girlfriend that she was having the slanging match with?
Oh, I would have no chance. I've watched this weeks ago. No.
Okay, so the girl was Charisse.
Oh, yes.
So she had this, it was pure sort of Lauren Cooper, wasn't it? Or Vicky Pollard.
Pollard.
And
yeah.
I do love those kind of fights where everyone just talks the whole time and nobody listens. I think that's probably a really valuable fight technique, and I wish that I'd learnt it because it just makes you impervious, isn't it? You just say your piece, you never stop saying it, and you can't take the hits in.
Yeah.
My problem is I listen too much. And the boy was Darren Miller, and his auntie saw Rudy and Darren kissing on the fire escape, and Rudy says at the end of it, I hate his aunt, I knew she'd seen us.
Charisse I might have remembered, but Darren Miller I never would have remembered.
Darren Miller. Darren.
I will talk to you next time, Cazla.
Thanks, Tracy.